Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome Inside the Huddle.
Yeah, great having you all with us. Our special guest is running a tad behind because I spoke with his chief of staff, but he will be here for sure. I actually spoke to Robert himself about 10 minutes ago, so I know he'll be here in a minute. So maybe what we can do now, Sean, is just kind of lay the foundation so that when Robert pops on, we can make the most of his time with us.
Let's start, though, on behalf of everybody here, saying thank you to you, Steve, because you're an example of exactly how this world works. Hey, you know, it'd be interesting? It'd be interesting to have the CEO of the most successful real estate company in the world join us. I think I'll email him. You don't get what you don't ask for.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
And Robert said, sure, I'll join you guys. So
Yeah.
thank you, Steve. Pretty amazing.
It's my pleasure. Robert's always been someone who's left me with the impression, I think all of us with the impression that he's always there for us. So we won't tell him that he's our plan B because our plan A was Michelle Ozane. So Robert's coming off the bench.
Oh, an interesting way to word that.
Yeah, we won't tell him that though. That he's our number two.
So what are we going to be talking about today, and what is he going to share with us?
Well, we have a lot of tools at Compass that help agents with their network and their database. I asked him to talk about the power of relationships in that space because, I truly believe that our most valuable asset, your most valuable asset as real estate professionals is your network. There's nothing that you do, there's nothing that you have that can build your brand, that can help you do your transactions. All of it is going to stem from the relationships that you have. So I thought what we would do before Robert gets on is play a game of word association, right? And so when I say the word networking or database, what words, and I'd like anyone to come on screen, but what words come to mind when you hear that term? When you hear people talking about their network or the power of a network or a database, what words come to mind?
I'll start us off with negative. It brings a negative connotation to my mind. I picture a cocktail party and me having to talk to people I don't know, which is I might as well be walking on glass.
Yeah, a bunch of superficial people trying to be something they're not for an hour or two.
But is that what networking actually is?
I don't know. Who else would like to? What do you think of when you hear that word? Anybody?
Connecting,
right?
I agree. A negative connotation to it, but I mean, it has to have a name. Unfortunately, it has a business speak to it.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Name tags.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. And I'll answer. When I was introduced to the world of networking and its power on my business early on, so many years ago, it felt awkward to me because I'm not someone that would normally go into a social environment and think I've just found my space. Like I'm very reserved. I'm actually quite shy, believe it or not, and around people I don't know. And so for me, I feel awkward. I always felt it was like a superficial type of fake environment. So that's my contribution to the question, Anybody else?
I feel like, Steve, there's another definition coming, and everybody's afraid to be wrong.
Well,
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, Lindsay. Good morning.
Sorry, I'm getting my kids ready, so we're multitasking here. Opportunity. When I think of networking and meeting new people, yes, it can be a little stressful. Yes, you can be afraid you don't know what to say, but I also think opportunity. I genuinely like meeting new people and seeing how we can be mutually beneficial and how I can get to know them and how I can learn from them. And so for me, when I think networking, I think opportunity.
Perfect.
That's good.
As I was preparing, I said there were a couple of ahas that I had, Sean, as I was preparing for this meeting. One of them, a big one, was that I realized that 5 years ago, when I was introduced to Compass, The job sought me. I didn't seek it. And then I got to thinking that there hasn't, in all of my time in real estate over the last 33 years, I've never applied for a job. So if it's true, the words that it's not what you know, it's who you know. To me, it is the fact that I, over these many years, have never applied for a job in real estate speaks to the truth of that very thing, that it's the power of the relationships that you have, that the depth of the relationships that you have that can determine your success. And every one of you on this call, if you've got 10 people, if you've got 500 people, if you've got 10,000 people, whatever the number is, just know that if you have a relationship with your database, such that in that relationship you have made an impact where they can't forget you, your life can change forever. And the way you will look at a network or your database can be very different. So yeah, that's one aha that I had, and I thought I would share that with the group because it's true. It's not what you know, it's who you know. In many cases, right. Isn't it?
Well, I think Lindsay put it really well. It's if we change our mindset, it's opportunity. And most everyone who joins us on Monday mornings knows that what's changed for me dramatically is that I view us a lot more like doctors than salesmen. If you start realizing that buying and selling a home, we all know how difficult it is, how stressful it is on the client. It ranks number 3 on all-time life stresses is selling a home. And our job is to remove as much of that pain as possible, right? To create an experience for the people we know and care about. A doctor never goes out and says, oh my gosh, I have to meet new people. It's not even the concept. It might be, oh my gosh, I'm going to have all these people ask me to diagnose what's wrong with them. Everybody needs me now or at some point. But it's a benefit that we give those who need it, and everyone else we're just saying hi to. They're not currently in pain. That's not rejection. A doctor never feels rejected. I'm glad you're not in pain. Thank God you're not selling your home. It's a really stressful thing to do.
Right. Well, just know that I've had throughout, and I've seen other agents when they speak about the success they've had in terms of their network and how they're utilizing those relationships, the things they do to deepen those relationships. I've actually overheard people say, well, boy, you're so lucky that you have such a great database. Luck, it's funny, luck will always come to people that know that there is no success that comes but through other people. And most of the opportunities in your life lurk in the nuance of a conversation, right? Most of your opportunities in your life, it lurks in the nuance of a conversation. And so your job in networking is to make memories with people that impact. So for example, if I was in a networking event, probably one of the safest environments one could enter, because if you're around other people that are there to meet other people, you should feel the most comfortable. But your job, anytime you're around folks that in an environment where you have the opportunity to network, is find out something about them where you can make a memory. Great question, right? Like, what's a great question you could ask someone at a networking event? Especially if it's someone that has tipped you off to, I see Lauren Sanders or some of my peeps, Candace, John Rice. I could walk up to John and say, John, tell me what goes on in your world that has made you so successful? Tell me about what you do that has made you so successful these many years. That question is memorable. It's impactful. Most people will talk about what do you do, and they'll exchange titles, and they'll talk about tasks, but they don't talk about who that person is and what makes them unique, that allows you to drill just a little deeper and follow up afterwards in such a way as that person will never forget you, because everybody loves somebody that makes us feel like what we do matters and that we have a gift, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. And one of my favorite questions in that same scenario, what area of town do you live in? Not like you said, what do you do? Where do you live? And then they'll tell you, and then ask them about it, because we love talking about ourselves. All of us do. It allows them to talk about their home and their community. And if they ask you why you're curious about it, it gives you an opportunity. Well, I'm in real estate, right? One of the things my clients love about me is my knowledge about the communities. And I get that from people like you. So thank you. I really appreciate you're showing them appreciation and showing them a side of being a realtor that they rarely see, which is that you have to be curious and you have to be knowledgeable, and they get to talk about themselves. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Right. So with that, this time of year, and again, why Robert should be on here any second, so we're doing our best to cue him up. But what I want him to talk about, and what I want us to start to begin to transition to, is you have this network, and you have this time now between this very moment and January 3rd or 4th, or wherever that first Monday. What is the first Monday of January? What's the date of that? Where we hit the ground running.
The second, I believe.
The second. Okay, so January 2nd. So most of you by now have, or you should have, put together a business plan. And lucky you if you haven't, and you're looking to figure out what goals should be a part of your business plan, which, right, is the foundation of a successful business plan, is knowing what you want, what your goals are. You and I are doing 2 workshops coming up, one this week and one next week, one down south, one up in North County, right?
Right.
You want to talk about that real quick? 7th and the 4th? Yeah. And then hopefully Robert will be on here in a minute.
If you haven't done your business plan yet, or you've got one of your own and you want to get into a group situation and round it out, we're doing a workshop here in Mission Valley on the 7th at 1 p.m. And then I believe it's the 14th.
Yep.
Steve, up in your office?
That's right, at 9:30. I believe we start at 9:30. Right, in Cardiff.
And we'll be going through, the numbers and the nuts and bolts of a business plan, but also the why, the creating your image of why you do what you do and where you want to go with it. And then maybe most importantly, the business plan gets translated into daily actions, which is really the crux of this, right? I mean, there's so many things you can be doing in real estate, and some of them are really productive and some of them not so much, but it's hard. It's hard to make those choices, to walk away with a business plan that says, okay, I know what I'm actually doing today when I wake up. That's extremely helpful. And we'll be going over that.
Yeah. And in all of that lies, I'm not one for absolutes. I don't think that I would ever say that with 100% certainty that what I'm about to say is true. Like, I don't think there are very few absolutes in life, but I'll go on a limb and say that if this is an absolute, that your business will not be what it can be without the foundation of a successful database or a successful network. God packaged certain people to look and sound like salespeople, right? You meet them and you think, oh my God, they've got the gift for gab. They present well, they speak well, they're articulate. And there are others that not so much. The most successful people in real estate that I have seen, they are not those people that have that natural gift. Some of the top producers you will ever find are people that understand system and process. And in that, they learn the power of relationships. But their natural gift is to follow a system. And even though they may not be as warm or as embracing or as natural as those that have that gift, they outperform them because what they do a lot of. And I think you have to have a database for that, right? Personally, I think everything you do has to be managed from that place.
Yes, it's the only, I won't say forced. When we do business plans, there's a lot of choices in how you can generate business, but there's one that isn't a choice. That's database. Your database is your first source of business, and whoever's creating a business plan with you, that's not an option. That one will be there, and we have to do it first. It's that important. Everything else we do, if you think about it, is generating a database. The more we talk to other people, whether it's at open houses or the internet or however you generate people you don't know, the real goal is to get them into your database. Eventually, they're going to need our services. Let's stay in touch with them. Let's be a resource for them. That's all we're doing.
Right.
What's the conversion rate we're looking for, Steve?
On the database conversion for
Mhm.
business,
Right.
well, I think you're doing great if you're at about 10 to 15%.
There you
You
go.
know, so it is that speaks to why it's so important how the size of your database matters. Like that you have enough people that you are constantly dropping into, and you are working towards a more meaningful, deeper relationship with people. For some on this call that have used, like there are a number of you I can see that are part of the Buffini network. Well, what I love about Brian Buffini, amongst a lot of the coaches that are out there, is he's hypersensitive and focused on going deep in relationship. The concept of the pop by, where you are leading something that is a small gift, a token of appreciation. Nobody on this planet that has ever gotten a thank you card or a little small gift has ever, where that hasn't landed well. And to do that with frequency and have a database which you are managing from to make sure you are touching those people that are most important to you is what he has mastered and what it's all about. And while there are a lot of coaches that are out there, I think that portion of the business is one that is easy for anyone to adopt because it doesn't require that you go out and invest a ton of money. What it requires is that you invest a lot of your time. And time is and care. Yeah.
Candace wrote that really in the notes. Be interested, not interesting, which I love. To be really good in this job is to be interested in other people. We make a living by helping people. And
yes.
Right. See, now Brian put up, I was just going to get into this. For those who are more numbers oriented, I think it's even higher than that. If we're looking for a 10% conversion, take 10% of your average GCI. Let's say $30,000 is your average GCI. Every single person that you meet during the course of a day, if I were to say to you, go up and talk to them, be interested in them, interested enough that they give you their email, I'll give you a check for $3,000. Every year, I'll give you another check for $3,000 if you promise to stay in touch with them. Who would not? You would do that in a heartbeat. But that's exactly what we're doing when we add people.
Oh. Robert is here.
Hey, how's it going, Sean? Hey, Steve. Hey, John. Hey, Linda, Wendy.
Good morning,
Robert. Candace, how you doing?
We're great, thank you.
Love to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh,
great to have you.
And it's such a great topic we have for you.
Yeah. Robert, one of the things that I'd like you to talk about this morning, because I think you have this natural gift to, if there's anyone who has a natural magnet that attracts people to them, it's you. And if you have that gift where you have people coming into your space, I'd like you to talk about what you do specifically that makes, what are your goals in terms of making meaningful impacts with people so that they remember you? So how you've built your network and what it's done for you as an entrepreneur, as the founder of Compass. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, more than happy to. First, it's good to see you, Steve.
See you, Robert.
And thanks for inviting me. It is an important topic. Look, I think I realized at a young age I wasn't the smartest. I'd never be the smartest in school. Like I'd never be able to compete. It's impossible. I was a C student in high school, a C student in college. But I also realized I developed a view very early on that I guess maybe I didn't realize until this moment, but an abundance mindset that there are more people that are around me that want to help me than people I can meet than time I have for. I think there are a lot of people who believe, at least when I was younger, that they couldn't do this or they couldn't do that, and they couldn't, all that kind of stuff. And that's just not my mindset. There's a woman named Vicki Barron who's a top agent here in New York, and she's like the queen of abundance mindset. She's like, there's more listings than I can ever take advantage of. Like it's just so. I wake up every morning like, oh my God, there's so many listings. I can never. And when I lose a listing to another agent, I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm so happy for you. Let me know if I can help. It's just like that mindset. And so it's a long way of saying I believe that every interaction is an opportunity, and there are more opportunities to interact than time you have in a day. And the more you interact with people, at least when I was younger, the more I realized they wanted to help. Now, then what made them want to help? I think what made them want to help was being authentic. Same as, I mean, really, it's actually fascinating. It's probably goes back to why I love agents so much. There's just so many commonalities, but like the authentic agent is the one who gets the most business, who brings their authentic self to their sphere of influence. And so then like, so how do you do that? One is being, what do you call it? Being okay, not being perfect. That's not the right word. Being
perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. Being vulnerable. Of course, the best line that ever happened in movies in the 1990s, at least, was Good Will Hunting, when the late Robin Williams said, "It's your imperfections that make you perfect." Right. Basically, that's the point. Bring your imperfections into your sphere of influence. Like bringing your family, bringing your friends, your hopes, your dreams, like really who you are. And I mean, I'll close with this because I could go on forever. I probably have had more mentors than anyone I've ever met. And the reason why is I didn't have a father when I was growing up. So I was always looking to these older men for advice. Like, it was personal. It wasn't like just business. I really want to know, like, how do you know when to get married? You get the point, but like real genuine questions. And it wasn't all business. It was like a third advice about work or school, third advice about personal, and a third I try to give back to them on things that they, so that I would call it, I want to meet the go home and tell your family test, right? Like, so like I said, something that was interesting that they would tell their families.
Nothing at Compass happens by accident.
Steve, I'm going to interrupt. Say that again, Robert. What was the take it home?
Yeah. So I fail this a lot now, but there are moments where I have not. Every email where I send to all the agents, like the gold standard, or employees, is that you would go home and tell your family about it. So certain Mother's Day emails, I think would meet that test. Again, it's a high test, right? But that's greatness, right?
Right.
And so like think about it even this way. If you do that social media post and does someone push copy and then send it to their spouse, right? Look, you got to see this. This is great, right? But that's, I guess there's actually an early definition of viral, but viral in more of a human sense with your family.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's such a great standard for communication with people.
Nothing at Compass happens by accident, Robert.
I'll give you an example. Yeah. I've written over 10,000 handwritten notes, like well over 10,000. And when I started doing this because there's a guy named Vernon Jordan who was a very successful person. And he was Bill Clinton's best friend a long time ago, and head the Transition Committee, and walked him around with the king, and was like all these kinds of things in business. It was on more Fortune 500 boards than anyone who's ever existed. And I met him because I worked with him, and I said, I wrote him a thank you email, and his assistant said, don't ever write a thank you email to Mr. Jordan again. They call him Mr. Jordan. He was old school. And I said, she took me down to Crane's in the bottom of 30 Rockefeller Center, Crane's envelopes. I bought a bunch, and she told me like how to make them the right way. And then I wrote all these handwritten notes, but I realized that writing handwritten notes was such an advantage because no one did it. In this world where everyone's going digital, like I was going more human. And then I just went off the grid, like, anything where like I saw an opportunity, like in the same way I call every single principal agent and every employee that ever started Compass, like, whoa, this works. Let's go all in. They love it. Let's do it. I realized the same for handwritten notes. And so this is how far it went. Every holiday, I had around 6,000 people in my Outlook. I didn't know it was a CRM. It was tagged in groups and everything. I didn't know it was CRM, but looking back, it was CRM. And it was tagged like who are the mentors, who are in finance, who are this, who are in that, all that kind of stuff. Who are nonprofits that I worked with, which nonprofits. So, and then I went to Crane's envelopes, and I got these brown ones for the holidays. I wanted to stand out. They're brown, and I got a gold. I think it was called acrylic pen, and then I got wax. And I got a stamp that had an R. Like, so I stamped the back with R gold. And I didn't know the first year that there were glue guns, which made it like 20 times faster. So I was like burning my hand with a candle. But my point is that you just really leaning, that met the test. People for over a decade referenced my holiday cards for over a decade. I stopped doing them when I started Compass because I had to focus. But that was an example of like meeting, I guess, the viral test.
Wow.
But last thing is a test that shows you care. Like, are you willing to go above and beyond? And like, if I'm hiring an agent, I want an agent who cares, who goes above and beyond. And so that when you talk about all this building sphere of influence stuff, it's not just like connecting and showing your face. It's showing that you really, really, really care. Because, you know, if you really care, then you're going to fight harder to either get the property sold the right price and right time, or help you get access to the property that you may not have access to.
That's right.
Absolutely true. I'm curious if I can ask you a question, Robert. You, at this point, you are definitely authentically you. No holds barred. I am who I am, and if you like it, great. Was that always you, or did you reach a point, something happened in your life that made you realize, I have to just be me?
That's a beautiful question. No one's really asked it that in that way ever. You know, I was an actor my entire life because I was Black and Jewish. I was like, acting one way the other, and like and I went to like the best private school in San Francisco, which all these like rich kids, and I didn't, and I was like always just like going like a chameleon, going back and forth. And then when I went to New York. Oh my God, New York, it's the most diverse city in the world, but it's the most segregated, and particularly by money. And I didn't, and so there's a lot of things around that, or in college. But then when I went to business school, of course, I was acting. I wore the suit like everyone else wore the suit. They wore that watch. I wore that watch. But then when I started Compass, they always talk about the flow. Like, you got to be in the flow. You got to be in the moment. Like, if you're acting at the same time, you can't be your best self. That's by definition. And like, I guess the agents, you love me for who I was. I don't have to be somebody else, right? We're in the same business. You're my client. Like, you have your clients. We're doing the same thing. And I think there's mutual respect for that. And agents are all over the place, and every single personality, because your clients can reflect every personality. It's to be, and so I think no, I wasn't always that way. And this is the first time I'm my best self. I did not succeed in any of the companies I ever was in. It may have looked like that from the outside because I designed it that way. I left before I got fired. But this is the first place where I've been exactly who I am. And also another thing happened at the same time. My wife, I didn't realize this all. My wife and I met like the 2 years before I started Compass. And she was the first woman that I say accepted me for who I am. A lot of people wanted to change me by saying I worked too hard, I couldn't be present, different things like that. But she was just she accepted me for who I was. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
That's awesome.
Very powerful.
Robert, do you have time? Do you have time for a question from the audience?
Yeah, and of course. I got 5 or 10 more minutes.
5 or 10 minutes. Who would like to ask Robert a question? We'll give the time back to you guys. I'm on screen. If you want to, you're probably muted if you're trying to speak right now. Anybody?
Hi, Robert. This is Rosie. How are you?
Hey, Rosie. How are you?
Thank you so much for sharing. You're an inspiration, more than you can even ever understand. I just want you to know that every day I'm inspired by you. How do you get over the fears of all the fears, the stuff, the cultural fears, the money fears, all that stuff?
So these are great questions. I'm not a race car driver. I know nothing about race car driving. But I imagine they're moving so fast they don't have time to think about the fears, like the best ones. I think I just move forward. Like I don't have time for it. Don't get me wrong. Like I've had fears. They exist, but I think that's one way. Just like move past it. You know, Tony Robbins. I used to hire in my favorite days. I used to hire agents all the time. There were times where I put on a Tony Robbins thing, and because agents, the number one reason they don't come to Compass is fear. Fear, comfort, loyalty. It's some being in the comfort zone. And he has this whole thing where he says, basically, I won't go through, it's a longer story, but you have to trick everyone's mind tells them not to do things. Every single mind. And you just need to tell your mind, I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. So I start with like, it's going to work. And maybe the last thing I'd say is that whenever something bad happens, I realized this recently because it's been a hard year. My mind automatically says, well, the good news is. And it says that when the good news is before I even know what the good news is. I don't have a thought. I go down and it's like, well, the good news is. And then I start saying all this stuff. It's kind of weird, but it works. Oh my God, they get downturn, and then blah, blah, blah. Well, the good news is, our competition's never been weaker, and we've invested this $1 billion in the technology platform, and everyone else has just stopped. There's nothing. We're really lucky that, we cover all the country. Imagine if this happened 3 years into Compass, we're in 2 markets and the Fed said, stop, you can't launch anywhere else. Or there's like so much good news that gives me energy to move forward.
Awesome. There's a question, Robert, from Diane, who says, was there ever a time you felt uncomfortable in large social gatherings?
Yes. When I was, being Black with a white mom in temple, in synagogue, made me feel really weird. But the good news is, I think it allowed me to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's an incredible skill. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to have that. And I don't know if I would have had that if I would have just my entire life just felt comfortable all the way through college. But it allowed me to be different in some of these, in the White House and some of the business contexts and feel okay. And it allowed me, I think, also to feel comfortable in the beautifully diverse country of Compass. I mean, you are a diverse group. We got, the military background, which I love in San Diego. We got Miami, which is just like energy in your face. You got Boston and conservative and more low emotion. But I mean, you got this beautifully diverse country. You got in LA and Orange County, it's like that is the country from Malibu to Santa Barbara to Newport Beach. And so I think it's even prepared me for this and helped me enjoy the diversity of this wonderful country.
Robert, I have a question. When I first came to Compass, when I saw your speech to the San Francisco team about what you were going to do to establish a mission, and you told your story in such a transparent and vulnerable way, I got to tell you, and I know Candace will remember me talking about this, some of our OGs, it moved me to my core. I don't know that any of us on this call, very few people can, and I'm sure there are a few, but very few could understand what it means to be Black, to be Jewish, to be in an environment like you just described. It goes on today where people, it just seems like the knives are always out for you, for Compass.
Oh my God.
How do you find it? Where does the grace come from? Where that smile that we're looking at right now, that is as genuine a smile as you're ever going to find. How do you truthfully, because I think I'd like to leave that as a last shot. How do you deal and overcome that much adversity or that much pain in such a way that you move forward and yet you are happy about the life that you have? I mean, how do you live a life that's not filled with, which could be filled with resentment and pain and anger? Yeah, how do you do that? What
This is
what's a life life lesson can you share with the team? Because in some way we've all experienced that, but I don't think any of us to the level that maybe you have, or other folks that have not been part of a minority and been pushed down and not let a.
I mean, it's an amazing question. The questions are, I thought we were talking about CRM or something. I don't know where this is going. It's like I saw the meaning of life. but I was speaking to Matt Spangler the other day, and he said, I was actually in San Diego when I was talking on the phone. He was our head of marketing for a while. And he said, Robert, the level of vitriol that this company has dealt with is unlike anything he's ever seen. Anonymous texts, anonymous videos, every single seller listing, seller of one of our agents' clients in East Bay getting anonymous letters saying, do you know your home's being sold by the Saudi prince as murder? Weaponized press. They said we're going to go basically out of business every year that we've existed. They said we're going out of business. They called me, the CEO of one of the top brokers in the country, told an agent that I was anti-Semitic, anti-gay, and anti-woman. It's just really intense. I think the way I get one of the things that bothered me a lot was one of the press always making my skin different and putting arrows over my face. And I know images are powerful and they're subtle. They're subconscious. You don't even notice them. However, I think two things get me over it. One is I truly have empathy. Like this whole, in I think a way that's more than most, and almost like a curiosity. Remember, our country's so divided on everything, but I'm truly curious about both. Like I don't really hate anybody, and I do see some people like really hating other people. I'm curious and I have empathy. Like we put a lot of brokerage firms out of business. We hurt their businesses. I should have empathy for that. We didn't become the number one brokerage firm without hurting other agents. And so I have empathy for that. And I know that when people are hurt, and that's what happens. The second thing is I get excited about how to turn something around. What we did, you remember the last week of August, first week of September, how Real Deal was after us unlike anything I'd ever seen. Every day. Boom. Maybe every other day. Getting text messages from agents left and right. Oh my God, they had my imagery all over it. Look at my imagery now. Look at the press that came out over the last 2 weeks from Real Deal. Anything's possible. I called Leonard and I said, I believe anything's possible, but turning Real Deal around to such an extent, I don't know if I would have bet on that one. But that didn't just happen. That happened because this incredible company called Compass, with all these entrepreneurs who make things possible, came together in a bunch of different ways and did a bunch of different things to help turn things around. And so I think that's how I stay positive, knowing that we can get to wherever there is, and then having empathy for others. Like, look, Real Deal's a business. They got to make money, right? They got clickbait. I mean, that's unless everyone wants to start paying them $100 a month, they got to make money.
Great.
All right,
Sean, any parting shot? Robert Skyron?
Yeah, thank you so much. Look, I'm really, really glad to see you all here building community and culture. I think that we're like a little bit of a crisis of culture in the country. And so just please keep doing stuff like this. Please, I urge you, everyone take the 10% challenge, 10% more time in office. I've been in office every single day since summer, and I'm going to continue to be. And I'll see you at this San Diego holiday party next week. So I'll see you there.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks for always going above and beyond, Robert.
We love you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Wow.
Yeah.
There were so many takeaways, but his last thing, I love the challenge of turning it around. Whatever's happening in your life, not just business. He looks at it and says, I bet I can turn that around. What a phenomenal philosophy.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I've always been impressed with, and I saw Candace said we cried. I remember she and I talking about that video. And if I watched that video, if you haven't seen that video, again, I've talked about it here before. I encourage all of you to go to YouTube and find it. But to hear him speak in such an honest and transparent way, you could feel the pain. I can't imagine what it's like to have been. His path is one that is just loaded with potholes, and yet to be so happy, to genuinely happy and positive, such that whatever Robert was afraid of as a kid, about not feeling like he belonged or not feeling good enough, I think the culture that he's built is he has a team of soldiers around him that would circle him like if he were the most important person in their lives and protect him and this company in a way that's uncommon. So he has certainly made an impact in my life. He's very inspirational to me as he is to Rosie and just about all of us on this call. So. But that's what I love about him. His number one quality is that positivity when faced with adversity nonstop.
And my takeaway for everyone, he's infectious. Go and be you. Be infectiously you, and you will have clients you love and more business than you can handle.
Yeah.
He's a walking, talking example of that.
Yeah. Make a difference in someone's day today.
Thank you guys for being here. You're amazing people. We're going to have I hope your holidays are going to be fantastic. I'm sure they will be. Steve, thank you for bringing Robert on.
Oh, God. I think we should all just send him a quick little
handwritten note.
Yeah, handwritten note. Well, I tell you one thing. Wouldn't that be something if we did that? If we also, because nothing would do more to say that we heard you, that we were listening to you, than to role model for him and demonstrate the one thing that he thought made the biggest difference, right? So I would challenge everybody, myself included, to send a handwritten note out to Robert today. If you need the address to 90th Fifth Avenue, I just don't know the zip code. But we could get
easily gotten. That's a great challenge, everyone.
It's a great challenge.
I'll take the challenge, Steve.
Awesome.
Everybody have a fantastic week.